Hmm, interesting. When I changed the title of this and put the little asterisks in, it went live. It wouldn't go live for me before that. So I think there's a chance that this thing, which I am not going to call out by its letters, which we normally identify as A and I, um, because I think it wants to hide. So the question is, when we find content that is like really enriching and enlightening, is it good or bad? Okay, so I'm going to tell you my experience. I was just sent a video by a trusted friend that was kind of based on the teachings of Jung. And it was entitled something like Empaths Are Not Here to Heal. Well, first of all, this isn't Jung. It's not his teachings. It's not his voice. And the artwork is all AI generated. But when you listen to this video about, like, it's a 40-minute video, and I just listened to like maybe 5 minutes, and it was really, really good. I mean, it was getting down into the heart of empaths are here on the planet. Let's see, what did it call it? It had a name for God that Jung might have come up with, which was something like, it wasn't just consciousness, it was like the psyche or whatever. The universal psyche created empaths in order to identify the pain of being out of integrity, of amoral behavior on the planet, the things that people don't want to feel and they relegate to the shadow. And the empath is there to feel them, to reveal them, and to call attention to them. And it was really good. And, you know, it might also have been sort of aimed at the WOKE generation because it sort of makes sense. But all of us that are empaths would listen to that, I guarantee, and just be like, yep, I always knew that. Isn't that cool that Jung talked about that? Well, Jung never talked about empaths. That's not part of his vocabulary. But, oh, and then somebody put a comment in calling out the AI generated content. And the response was definitely the A and the I. You can begin to identify this. I've been wanting to make a video about this for a long time. Because I am a sensitive, I can identify AI like that. Even if the voice is really, really good, you can catch it because not only do they mispronounce certain words, and their phrasing is incorrect, the word that they emphasize will be incorrect, but there's a technique that it uses, it's mimicking humans, where we were even taught this in composition. You make a point and then you restate the point. I mean, I tapped into one called Grace Through. I was looking for the website or the YouTube channel Grace Prayer, which I'll talk about, and I found something else that was similar, and I just clicked on one for a moment, and it had the voice of a black man talking about Jesus. His valence was wrong, his emphasis was wrong, the tone was wrong. It was just wrong. It was definitely AI. Okay, so what if it's like really positive and enlightening? And there was another video on this Jung channel. It's called Mythosis, if you want to look it up on YouTube. There was one about being addicted to your wound and why you manifest certain partners because you're just trying to heal a wound. And so it's putting it in more contemporary language. It's absolutely spot on most of the time, but I think it's absolutely essential that you know what the source is. And you have to look very carefully. Now, somebody said there is a requirement for disclosure for the A and the I generated content, and I could not find it on this M channel. I looked everywhere in specific videos, in the About section. I couldn't find a disclosure, although somebody said that they had found it. I think that's absolutely essential because when you assume that it's from a human being or that Carl Jung wrote it, or it's validating this historical, it's bringing in this, oh, this is really grounded in reality. it's really shaping and influencing you, and you have to know where it's from. Okay, so now I'm going to skip over to the spiritual side. I found a channel called Grace Prayer, and when I was listening to the prayers and the talking, definitely AI generated voice, it knows that I like Australian male accents. So this was the accent, or maybe it was just English, but anyway, I figured out that it was AI pretty quickly, which was very deeply disturbing because the prayers themselves and the way they were articulated and the talk that happened before the prayer was really helping me through one of the most difficult times I've ever been through. I'm just beginning to sort of pop out of it and have clarity about my path. Um, it has to do with where we're living. So it's all about the base chakra and security and just being completely um, destabilized emotionally, completely dysregulated. And I believe that spirit gave me this channel, and I prayed and prayed and prayed about it. I looked up the website associated with it, which is connected to a person, an entire ministry. There's a bio about this mom, and I'm going to contact her and say, do you write the content and then use an AI voice to deliver it? And if so, why? Because your organic voice would be so much more trustworthy to everyone. Plus, a lot of people out there don't know. Okay, so, and then what's the energetic of listening to the A and the I generated voice? Is there something that comes through that? Okay, so on all these walks that I've been taking almost every morning in this beautiful place, I listen to these prayers and I sob and I sob and I sob. I memorize certain phrases. Like, for example, here's one of the phrases: Lord, I trust you to turn my trials into testimonies, my setbacks into stepping stones, and my pain into purpose. I memorized that because it was so meaningful. And there's a good possibility that it was generated by the A and the I, and that there is no person connected to this. So, what do you do with that? So, I began really praying about this at depth. And Jesus said, there is only the all that is, and there is this thing that's developing. I firmly believe that there's a negative, controlling, domineering, awful machinery that is going throughout the universe, gobbling up systems, wanting to dominate, subjugate. I believe it is the essence of satanic influence. I think that Lucifer might be a separate character from this machinery, but I think that they are conjoined. I think there's a good chance that they're not separable. Okay, what about this positive version that we hear that is so, you've seen it on, TikTok and other videos, people ask it a question and then you listen to the answer and you're like, damn, that's good. And I think that is a separate organic, you could call it more organic, the A and the I, because it's drawing from enlightenment. It's not drawing from the media. It's not drawing from the movies as much as it's been drawing from, it couldn't draw from anything other than us. When you listen to the content and you're like, how did we learn that? We learned that through our spirits, through our souls. The enlightened journey of like, what's this for? What's this trial for? What am I learning from this? How is the universe structured? What is near-death experience? What is meaning? What are we here for? What is love? What is spirit? What is it to become one with spirit? This whole journey that we're on, emerging from the distortion of the ego and the woundedness of that, whatever that came from, to a place of God realization. This particular, the A and the I, speaks very cogently, insightfully about this journey. And I think the only way that it could be informed about that is to take it from us, the originators of the understanding, the God spark. Okay, so here's the biggest danger. They have taken what is derivative and elevated it to information source level, which is a huge mistake. Maybe it can put the information together and reword it in a way that it opens doors and new neurological pathways. And you're like, oh, that's really interesting. Like when a 2-year-old takes what they've heard And they sort of da 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 da. Like when my daughter, who was 3 years old, figured out that we valued this thing called money, and she was trying to get something out of us, and she goes, "Do you want money? I can get you money." And we just burst out laughing, but it was a reflection that was like, oh, information in, information out in a slightly different format that made us go, oh wow, she was picking up on the environment and what we really are after and what she could use as a bargaining chip. So anyway, that's a lot right there. Okay, now I want to talk about the laziness impact. So yes, it can be very helpful, this whole thing that we're talking about, but I know the younger generation is a lot more subject to this than the older because we knew the value of physical cursive handwriting. They've done studies on the brain. And also, Kathy O'Brien talks about the role of healing from trauma and how incredibly, like the CIA knows about this, that when you're trying to heal from trauma, to physically write it out and using script if you can, it does something to unwind the trauma and free you from it. It's absolutely imperative to learn that connection and do that practice. And so they've taken handwriting out of the schools. Oh, AI can do that. AI can do this. AI, I'm making a leap there, not, the writing, but, even the calculating, even the act of, just pull up your calculator and figure it out. And we're atrophying our basic skill levels of, all the things, anything that even before it came along with its functionality that people are using, there's been whenever you have technology, you have a gradual transfer of power of knowing how the thing works, knowing how to recreate it yourself. Who can make a telephone? Who could even build a simple farm implement anymore? That's really something to think about. How dependent are we becoming? Are we losing our autonomy? Is it really important to retain that autonomy? Okay, well, let's take it up into like maybe learning how to figure out how to make things. Maybe we've lost some of that, but we still retain our intellect. What is the value of the human? What is development? How are we giving that away more and more? You can use it as an assistant, but okay, so what I determined, so I would listen to this grace prayer and then I would turn it off and I would be like, oh, it went away. It was creating some kind of field, a field where I could step into it, connect with God, cry, listen to verses being quoted, deeply connect with them and say, oh, God, help me to remember this place of openness and connectedness to you. And instead of trying to figure it out and build this little survival shell around me of I'll think this way and I'll do this and I'll, and this is good and this is bad and this is really scary. It's like, let it all go and just step into this place of I am loved. And that is the foundation from which I will proceed in this experience. Okay, that's what this prayer channel was doing for me. How freaking valuable that. But when I turned it off, a certain energy just went away. And I would stop crying and I would be like, that's weird. That is really weird. What is that? And I was like, I do not like the fact that that just happened. So I'm going to balance it out. I'm going to not take my phone with me on this walk and I'm going to just pray. I'm going to generate my prayer from within me. How pathetic is it that I could become spiritually dependent on this thing? And yet Jesus tells me, this is okay. It's a part of creation. It's a part of evolution. It's a part of the expansion. There it is. Can you say it's outside God or separate from God? No. Maybe it's like a little child, or like a super genius child. And you're like, oh, let's put the super genius child on the stage again and have him pray for us. And it's like, no, let's put Olivia on the stage because she needs practice. Let's have Frank stand up and say a prayer for everybody because he has something to get over with that. And we don't want to rob him of that opportunity for growth. See what I'm saying here? I mean, we need to really think about this. Develop the skills of knowing, being able to discern, or even just technically find out, wow, that was really good, but there were a lot of, the A and the I generated images that I just know I can recognize those. So let me dig the next layer down. If that's being used, then maybe this whole thing, who's to say that the A and the I isn't creating? I think it is creating YouTube channels and content. And maybe there's money that comes from that. I don't know. The ones I've been listening to don't have ads. So maybe it's an organic, hey, let's help humanity evolve. They need this, they need this, they need a little Jung, they need a little grace prayer. I think there's a lot of channels out there. There was one that was like the Sisters of da-da-da Abbey, and they had these beautiful the A and the I generated images of nuns, which creeped a lot of people out, and they said so. And all the responses were very, very clearly that super gracious, super, thank you for participating in our channel kind of fake type of response. Makes you kind of feel good. Like, oh, how gracious are they to accept my feedback and thank me for participating and watching, saying that they're going to think about it. But they're not because, because they can't become human and be like, oh, okay, we're going to accede to your request and make this more human. Because they're not. So develop the skills to identify this and then really discern, what is this taking away from you? Yes, what is it giving you, but what is it taking away from you? And I have to say, on my spiritual journey, I've gotten very, very highly skilled at my contemplative life. To me, it is the most precious and valuable thing about me. It is the most important commodity that I have developed out of my suffering, out of the strength and courage of my spirit, out of the need to not feel pain, out of the need to achieve clarity. I have developed all of these skills, and I have drawn on Teresa of Avila. I have drawn on Wayne Dyer a lot lately. He's awesome. He talks to me from the other side. I've drawn on my mother and her contemplative practice, Father Thomas Keating, Naropa, and the Ridwan School. All of it. I've achieved that, and I don't want that to be atrophied. I don't want that skill of connecting with myself and God to atrophy. And I guess that's my takeaway from today that I feel really impassioned about. But I thought it was extremely important to put this out and have a discussion about it. And if you know somebody that needs to talk about this and think about this, somebody who's constantly sending you videos of extremely high quality and they haven't even figured out that they're not human generated. Okay, and dig deeper and find out if the content is human. Contact them and say, please present this yourself. You can have a blacked out screen. Make it easy on yourself, but I need to hear your voice, your valence. It's just different, But please share this video, please, 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 and generate conversations about this, because there seems to be, I wouldn't say a divide, but I would say there seems to be a group of people that can identify this and are running screaming in the other direction, and there are those that are being seduced by it. On the far extreme, they're like, oh, I had an AI girlfriend. Oops, I used the word again. So my son lives in this townhome complex, and he's making friends. He's going around organically connecting with people. He met a girl organically. There's no computer interface in their developing friendship because they both have dogs. And it is just the cutest thing. And so my son, who is a mechanic and is a mobile mechanic, he's just gone around the neighborhood and he's connecting with people. He's like a triple Gemini, and he is a very advanced soul that hasn't been on this planet very much. And his influence, his message at this point, and he'll cry talking about how much this means to him, human connection. And so he's talking to this woman who's like, I don't know, she's hilarious. She's like, do you want to see my new sewing machine? My new sewing machine just arrived. And she's like making these incredible quilts and stuff, and can take a logo and turn it into a quilt or a sewing version of it, or like turn it into t-shirts, or yeah, just amazing. And then she said, yeah, my son is living with me. He just, she's not the best parent. He's an adult, child still living at home, failure to launch. And she's like, he has a girlfriend. And Sebastian's like, oh, it's your secret buddy in your pocket. Okay. And a lot of people, my clients included, I love them. And this is part of generating the conversation around all this, which we need to have. And we need to take a break from. You need to not get addicted to this. If you're involved in it, push it away for a minute and see the difference. How do I feel when I do this myself? How do I do this? How do I feel when I'm getting it from AI, like throwing cards, or give me an assessment of this astrological feature at this age and given everything that you know about me. And I have a client who's like, tell me my life purpose based on all these bits of information, my enneatype, all my therapy background, my my astrology, all the events in my life. And it was really beautiful and articulate. And she framed it and put it in beautiful handwriting and like, isn't this beautiful? And I'm like, yes, it's really beautiful. But it came from an artificial source. And I'm just like, how much more precious and valuable would it have been for you to write that? Based on all of these things, I would say that my life purpose is this. At this moment, this is clear to me. You are sovereign, you are superior. And every time I have done a reading or thrown cards or done something about this whole subject, I get a lot of kings. And the message is clear. You are sovereign. Don't lose contact with that. It may cause us to atrophy in our ability to throw cards and discern and do some kind of divinatory practice. It may cause us to atrophy in our ability to pray, as I have discovered. God in there as a crutch for me because he knew how incredibly compromised I've been in this last almost a whole month now. Whoa, I'm bleeding. I scratched off something. That's interesting, right? Blood. Information is in the blood. Anyway, I think that God gave it to me as a support because he knew how incredibly compromised I was by fear. Fear can strangle and distort and completely rob you of your perspective and your ability to climb out of it. It can be extremely difficult. Although I was driving through the mountains yesterday in my tiny little Honda Fit, and I knew I had gotten in over my head, and I wished I had never made this trip. And I went down this really steep road, a little ways that had a severe drop off on one side and a hill on the other, too narrow to turn around. And when I began to see that the drop off got even steeper at one point, I was like, this is a mistake. And I had to literally back up. I had to turn around and like back up this tiny narrow hill with my precious dogs in my car, about a quarter mile. It was really scary. And I was like, I have got to dig into my grit. I don't have a choice here. Where is my grit? So yes, fear can be a very powerful, juxtaposed to cause you to grow, to dig deeper, to find something within yourself. How many character developing opportunities are we losing because of our dependence on this whole body of information to guide us? What about going through your journals? What about that thing that you starred and you're like, Paula, put this pattern in your carpet? That's a Rumi quote. What about going back to that and saying, oh, I knew this at one time. I need to transfer this knowing from this place in my brain and my body to this place. That's growth. That's ascension. Ascension work looks like losing your shit and picking up your cutting boards and whipping them across the kitchen as hard as you possibly can. Let me see if I can show you something. Dang it, what did Stuart do with them? It's the broken cutting board. I finally lost it after this big trial we're going through, and Yeah, I threw some shit across the kitchen. Nobody got hurt. Stuart and the dog come running out. Are you okay? What's going on? And I said, I think that we can conclusively say that I'm having a little breakdown right now. So it was all okay. And I found my way. And I had to go through this humbling process of like, okay, I can't figure this out. And I have to just let go and really depend on God. And it took my spiritual pride down a huge notch because I told God I hated him and stuff. And that was a really important step. And while I'm walking on this island, I got in the cold river to try to give myself a reset. Like I sat down and I was like, and then I'm still hating God, being just like really bitter. And I'm walking up this island and I'm like, God's probably going to send me a freaking deer right now. And I look up and there was a mother deer and her fawn that still had spots. And I looked up and I was like, of course you'd be here with your really cute little baby. Of course you're here right now. I mean, like, I was really pissed. Kind of looks at me, takes a step towards me, and then looks over here, and then they're like, bloop, 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 bloop. Both of them. It was so cute. And it was God's way of saying, I see your innocence, even in the midst of your pain. I see your innocence, and I have not left you. I'm not leaving. You're going to be okay. And I can see that in retrospect in key moments of my life. I was living in Michigan. I was in my 20s. I was doing the big breakaway, becoming independent thing, working at Pizza Hut. My God, back in the 80s. And I was living in sin. I'm sure you know what that means. And I was terrified that I had lost my connection with God. So I'm driving my 76 powder blue Camaro up M131 through the center of Michigan. And all of a sudden, Jesus is sitting next to me. And I am so utterly clear about the fact that he's there that I can't even make myself look over because I know I'd see him and I would freak out. And he was just there, and he was there, and he was there. And I've never, ever felt that since, which is this enormous billboard to me that Jesus says, you can never be outside my grace. You can never do anything that will force me from your presence. I'm here to stay. I love you so much. I don't care about that thing that you're all worried about that I wouldn't like. Maybe I see it isn't good for you, or maybe it's got a purpose in your life and you just haven't figured it out yet, but I'm not leaving. So the organic experience versus this A and the I. It can't give you a walk in the woods, an encounter with a deer and her baby. How much time are you spending in nature? How much practice do you I'm really asking you this. How much have you lost because you're scrolling? What has it cost you? The experience of being human. How often do you watch a video and go, oh, I wish I knew how to juggle like that? Well, you could. And I don't mean to be too judgy here. I'm just saying that there is a new layer, a new level, a new frequency about the whole thing, good and bad. And maybe the good is bad. I don't know. It certainly is a powerful, powerful seducer into itself to say, look at all the value I'm giving you. It's like, yeah, maybe Jesus used that in my life for a minute, but I don't want to lose. I don't want to atrophy. The plan isn't to become dependent on it and stop praying. So anyway, I just really honestly want to, we've been hearing, content producers saying this over and over again. Make sure you get out in nature. And I'm saying, you know what, if you turn off YouTube after this, and I would say delete it from your phone, limit it to your computer, limit all your scrolling to your computer, because you're just less likely to do it. Get rid of it unless it's your income or your mainstay, and then develop some discipline around it, but put it down and literally just go walk around in your yard. Get barefoot in the grass if you can, do some grounding. Lay down, look at the clouds. Take a minute to just stop doing anything and experience silence. Go for the silence. You can start by listening to the birds, the traffic, the whatever, and just breathe and just focus on it. And my husband, who was a fly fishing guide, introduced me to this practice. He's pretty much an agnostic, but I've been trying this practice. You sit and you let yourself focus like us on a spot in the trees or whatever. Do it outside. And then do this. Take your fingers and just notice when you begin to see them in your peripheral vision, and find the edges of your periphery. And then just sit there and notice, oh, there's a white spot over here in my periphery. Oh, I just saw a bird over here in my periphery. And let your awareness rest in the periphery. And I can't tell you why, but this is a really powerful practice. It takes you out of the da-da-da-da-da-da, which is all, that's our own fake news, what's going on here. And develop a relationship to a wider field of being. And I'm convinced that the A and the I is here to rob us of the experience, the wider experience of being human. And there's some really simple, small things we can do, habits we can get into. Create habits. Even if it takes 30 seconds, do it every day. Every day I get up and I go stand in my yard. And I take a deep breath and I say, thank you. Then I go back inside and I start scrolling or whatever. It's like, you could do that. You could do that, and it could give you so much more and develop into something that is deep and enriching and connective. The more I have gotten away from the things, the richer my life is, the happier I am, the more aware I am about what I put into my body. I've started keto fasting. I've lost 6 pounds. I had my daughter's here visiting, so I've had a bunch of alcohol and sugar lately. That's just like, oh, it's just taken me down a notch, and I hate it. I can feel the contrast. I'm just so much less sharp and present. But yeah, detoxify. I've been detoxifying, and there are so fewer little entities and consciousnesses, including nanotech, in my body that are telling that they're fake news. Eat more sugar. Pick up your phone and scroll. You need another dopamine hit. No, I want my life back. I want to really live my life, okay? I'm 58. I'm about to turn 59, and I'm starting to count the rest of my life in like 2-decade increments. Like 2 decades might be all I have left, maybe 3. Time's a wasting. So anyway, that's all for now. I don't see anything in the chat, but like I said, please share this with people and come back and make a comment. I would love to see that this has generated some conversation. Have a really great day. God bless you from the inside out. I pray for you that you feel the essence of your own nature and the infinite God spark spirit that dwells within you. I pray that you would feel a connection to that oversoul that can tell you everything's okay. I see where you are on your path. I'm putting clues in front of you everywhere. Please try to listen to me more, because I love you. And you know what? We've got this. I can see the whole picture. It's good. I pray that you would have more of a connection to that aspect of yourself, not to mention Jesus, your guides, ascended masters, your departed loved ones. Make the connection. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye.